Pillen calling out a group of state senators today, saying the small minority are failing the people they serve.
In a statement, Pillen accuses the group of what he labels baseless and time-wasting tactics during the special session on property taxes. In response to Pillen's statement, State Senator Julie Slama said ideas such as freezing valuations are being ignored, saying, quote, King Jimmy is very angry. Senators are fighting his scheme to raise taxes on working Nebraskans.
During a meeting of the Revenue Committee today, Senator Luann Linehan laid out LB 9. Under the bill, a home in Omaha valued at $200,000 a year would have around $1,800 less in taxes a year. Changes to the bill include keeping tax exemptions on services like accounting and car repair. Linehan says senators are tired and they need to get the bill out of committee.
If we get something to the floor and we actually have a conversation instead of just a filibuster, then we can talk about things like that. But if we sing something to the floor and all we're going to do is filibuster and we can't have any conversations.
Senators were set to have an executive session this afternoon to discuss the latest version of the property tax bill, but that was canceled.